What does Joyville hide from the player behind the scenes and off camera? Joyville is a mascot horror game that leads you through the twisted halls of this abandoned children's camp. You must solve puzzles and evade the many threats lurking throughout, all while unraveling the dark history behind this chilling establishment. Sound familiar? It's like Poppy Playtime and Garten and Banban had a baby, for better or for worse. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some things we're not usually supposed to see, as well as breaking some stuff along the way, like how Wooly appears and vanishes throughout this entire chapter. So, I hope you all enjoy this look behind the scenes of Joyville. Hi there, hungry people! Today I'm partnering with Facta, our awesome sponsor. Facta makes it possible for the HorrorScoped community to get fresh, never frozen, ready-made meals delivered right to your door. Since there's no prep, there is no mess. And since there is no mess, it allows you to spend more time watching HorrorScoped videos. Click the link below or go to gofactor75.com and use code POGSCOPED50 for 50% off your first box. As always, I'll do a quick recap, that way we're all refreshed on what we'll be covering. So the game starts off at the entrance of Joyville, where we must find a key to unlock the door to the electrical room. Right off the bat, we see our main antagonist, Wooly Bully, just sitting in the corner of an empty room on the security cameras. We then complete a wiring puzzle using the numbers on these little cars, which allows us to turn the building's power back on. After a quick elevator ride, we obtain a teddy bear, and we use it to open this large door leading to the play area. We must complete a puzzle using the joy wheel in order to unlock this set of doors, all while being watched by this terrifying orange worm. After falling into this large hole, we must make our way through the basement where we meet the rest of the worm gang. We then travel back to the lobby, where we will then be chased by Wooly Bully himself, who forces us to take shelter within the slide. After this, we complete another puzzle using some blocks, and make our way downstairs where these steel gates slam in our face. After heading back upstairs, we will then be pursued by Wooly Bully once more. He chases us through this tunnel area where we must punch in a code to open this gate, and then jump into the elevator Resident Evil 8 style. We're not out of the woods yet though, as he jumps on top of the elevator in an attempt to reach us and is sent tumbling into the darkness. The elevator malfunctions, and we end up going down with him, thus bringing us to the end of Joyville. So with the recap done, let's take a look at the title screen. So in the menu, we can see this dark hallway with the silhouette of Wooly Bully just standing there, menacingly. After turning on the lights though, well, he's still just a shadowy figure. This model is completely black and has no discernible features despite the lighting effects being turned off. We can also explore this area a little bit, and in doing so, we'll find that none of these hallways actually lead anywhere. They merely come to an end just out of the camera's vision. Also, for some reason, there's a kid's drawing just kind of floating out of sight. But that's it for the menu screen though, so let's jump into the game itself. So, after loading into this entrance area, we'll find that it's quite a bit easier to navigate with the lights on. This entire section is typically shrouded in darkness, but now we can see everything clearly. If we head into the office, we can see Wooly Bully on the cameras, and I was curious whether or not he was actually present on this map. Well, as it turns out, he's sitting just beyond this desk. We can view this entire room from a different angle, and we can see him just kind of sitting in the corner, with what looks like blood covering the floor around him. What I found interesting is that we can also see what looks like the camera itself, as well as a camera mount out here as well. After completing the Among Us wiring puzzle, he will unload, and this area will be empty once again. Moving on to that main lobby area, I want to take a look at the Joy Wheel game. More specifically, this terrifying worm, who I believe is named Blenny? Let me know in the comments. So, with this puzzle, you're meant to hit the colored buttons in the correct order following this little rainbow drawing. With each mistake made, the worm will get a little closer and a bit more sinister in appearance. First, their eyes will move to follow the player. Then, they'll open their mouth to reveal their sharp, monstrous teeth. What I found kind of funny is if you walk behind them and then move the camera over to their face, we'll see that their eyes have completely rotated into their head. I can't imagine they're able to see much this way, but they definitely get an A for effort. Finally, we can view their jump scare from another angle, and the second we make our last mistake, they'll lunge forward not once, but twice. And after their animation has finished, they'll be stuck in this pose until the player respawns. Now, at this point, we are forced to walk across this small wooden bridge to get over this gap. But before we are able to do so, the boards cave in and send us falling into the pit. Flying beyond this pit, we'll find that these doorways don't actually lead to anything. and this hallway just comes to a halt right here. We can watch from another perspective as these boards collapse beneath us, and we plummet into the lion's den. Worm's den. That sounds less dangerous, but more disgusting. So after waking up in our mom's basement, you stumble across a very convenient flashlight. And then you must make your way out of these nightmarish tunnels. As we continue forward though, we have the unfortunate pleasure of meeting the rest of the worm gang, who just kinda stare at you from a distance. Moving the camera though, we can take a closer look at these worms. The first one that we encounter is this purple one with a candy cane sticking out of their head, and unlike the first worm upstairs, this one doesn't seem to have any teeth. These worms are pretty massive though, stretching across this hallway and even clipping through the wall. Just beneath this worm, we can also find a floating pair of white dots, which I believe are the eyes we see within the cutscene taking place a little bit earlier. Next up, we have the red worm, who is honestly far scarier than the last. They have a mouth lined with sharp teeth, and one of their eyeballs has just popped out of its head. This makes it all the scarier, as this shows that these are not simply animatronics, but instead living creatures. Their bodies just sort of clipping through the wall, and the moment we hit the trigger for them to move, they will retract just out of sight and then unload. Lastly, there's this green worm at the very end of these tunnels, and they're just kind of hanging from the ceiling. This version is covered in blood and what looks like stitches, and their mouth is completely closed. Their body's sticking out of the ceiling, and if we watch from outside of the map, we can see them retract upwards before ultimately unloading. So after charging our teddy bear, we end up in this large room with two sets of doors, one leading back to the lobby and another that we cannot access. The panel shows what looks like a rabbit instead of a teddy bear, and there is the word evil written all over the walls. Taking a look inside this room reveals that it is in fact empty. However, there are two shadowy walls in place to obstruct the player's view. But now let's take a look at that encounter with Wooly Bully. So after heading down to the main floor of the lobby, there is now an open door at the very end of this large room. Walking into said door results in Wooly leaping out and then ultimately giving chase. We can't typically see how this animation starts because of this black barrier, but moving beyond it, we can watch this animation from another perspective. Wooly just kind of spawns in the moment we hit their trigger, and they leap outwards at the player. They slam their fists on the ground before standing upright and then chasing after the player. We can watch their jump scare animation play out as well, and it's pretty funny. As soon as they touch the player, they will pick us up and then quickly shove us into their mouth, but not before going completely cross-eyed. Somehow, this makes Wooly slightly less creepy, if only just a little. So after the player hides in the slide, Wooly will still make their way over to us, but the moment they get close, they will swap to their peeking animation. They slowly lean over to stare us down, and then reach their hand inside in an attempt to grab us. After this, they move out of sight again, and then ultimately unload. From here, we must complete the block puzzle, which will then lead us to the final chase segment. Before the chase itself though, these balls will come rolling down the stairs. Viewing this from another angle reveals that the moment we trigger the second gate to close, these balls will all load in and just kind of explode outwards. Now, before we get to the final chase, I want to talk about something I discovered that is pretty cool. So when I was playing through this chase section, I realized that whenever I stepped over these metal panels on the stairs, my character would start to move abnormally. It turns out that most of the movable objects in this game are capable of displacing the player, and by standing on top of these panels, we can zoom around this map super fast. I imagine this trick could be used by speedrunners to not only get around the level a bit quicker, but also to potentially skip sections of the game entirely. For instance, in the ball pit puzzle, we must wait for the elevator to go up and down multiple times. However, by standing on top of these blocks, we can launch ourselves upwards and completely bypass the elevator. Heading back to the start of the chase sequence area, if we position ourselves correctly, we can actually use these panels to quickly move through this side gate, locking ourselves on the other side. Since we never went back upstairs though, we've completely skipped the trigger for this chase sequence, and can explore this area without interruptions. Unfortunately, most of these areas back here are blocked by invisible barriers, but it is definitely neat to be able to look around. Inside of the main tunnel area, we can even punch in the code and finish the game as if nothing has changed. But now, let's head back to the stairs and properly activate this chase scene. So, the moment we trigger Wooly to spawn, they will load in just around the corner in this puzzle room. They will then relentlessly pursue the player until they either catch us, or we escape in the elevator. Speaking of which, we can watch from another perspective as the elevator is started. and we'll see that once again, Wooly just kind of appears. After we leave their view, he just kind of slides out of the map. If we fly way above this map, we will actually find them T-posing alone in the void. They then fall down on top of the elevator, and after a short scuffle, Wooly falls into the elevator shaft. He just sort of clips through everything on his way down, and then vanishes into thin air. We can actually find them way out of bounds beneath this map now, only this time they're not T-posing. Finally, while exploring this elevator area, I came across this small white room, and in it are what look like a bunch of cardboard cutouts. They're solid black, mostly flat, and have what look like circular bases attached at their feet. Yep, the gang's all here. But with that brings us to the end of our dive into the first chapter of Joyville. I hope you all enjoyed this look behind the scenes, and if you did, make sure to drop a like and a comment to help out the channel. And I'll see all of you in the next one. Cheers!